And we're back for our Let's Play of the Riven Remake. Last time we found the secret of the Rebel Society. They got a whole new age, so that's cool. Also, the woman here told me to decide. Decide what? Well, I got a couple new books. Wait a tick. Oh. I see what you meant by decide. If I was one of Gen's goons, I'd try to use this linking book to get out of here, somewhere else. But I'm not one of Gen's goons, and because I brought this here. And since I brought this here, I can tell you, this is a trap. As opposed to whatever this journal is. Alright, quickly from my prison. Along with this journal, I've instructed Neela to return the book that the Moiety intercepted upon your arrival. After questioning her, I've concluded that it was written by Atris for a very specific purpose. Gen will list to see it, though he will undoubtedly be suspicious. To use it, I mean. Once he's out of the way, you'll still need the combination to release me. I'm told he keeps it somewhere on his outpost in 233. Then I assume we're to signal Atris. I think I know how it might be done, but don't attempt it before I'm released. Catherine. It's been 1 week since I linked to Riven, and I'm still reeling from the changes I've witnessed. Even before my eyes could safely adjust, the smell of my homeland embraced me. The sweet salt air was instantly familiar, but the scene that soon resolved was not. As I stood there, struggling to make sense of what I was seeing, a violent clang sounded, and bars appeared before me. It was then that I must have been darted, for my memory after is cloudy. A Rivenese man, shabbily dressed in militaristic attire, was shouting something at me. He seemed to be attempting to speak the knee, but his grasp of the language was so poor that I could not make out his words. Then the world went dark. Many voices passed, till at last I awoke to a familiar face. Eddie. After all this time, she's still as warm and kind as ever. Yet the years have clearly wounded her. They've wounded everyone whose world became a prison when Gen was trapped here. Everything is tinged with pain and loss, even Eddie's bright smile, though she does her best to hide it. A desperate urgency, squelched by unuttered fears, seethes beneath her cordial veneer. When Atris and I left Gen here all those years ago, I was haunted by visions of what had become of my people, and how they might have come to suffer under his rule. But the injustices I imagined were nothing compared to the atrocities that have actually come to pass. The following is a chronicle of what I've learned, a record of all that's happened, should I no longer be here to tell it. Noted. She is not in fact here, she's somewhere else. The Moiety. It seems the confrontation that led to Gen's entrapment on Riven was witnessed by some of the Rivenese. But their interpretation of the event was skewed, no doubt due to Gen's overinflated view of himself. Atris and I had hoped that stripping him of his ability to link to other worlds might lead people to conclude that his claims of godhood were false. But it appears the opposite's come to pass. If Gen was a god and we had vanquished him, then there must be greater gods. Oh joy. It was thus assumed that my absence was only temporary, and that I would surely return one day to set the world right again. Thus the Moiety, the name they adopted after Gen's disparaging use of the term, were born. Sworn enemies of Gen and devotees of me. I had no inkling of this misconception about myself until 2 days ago, though in hindsight it makes perfect sense given the way I've been treated. For their part, they naturally assumed that omniscient deity might be well aware of their own divine status, so there was no need to inform me. I only finally pieced together during a recent underground gathering, where they reenacted their version of the story of my life, in a riveting tale that culminated with the conversation between Atris, myself, and Gen at the edge of the fissure. The events had been exaggerated to such grandiose proportions that I found it hard at times to suppress my laughter. And yet this myth has also given them the courage to stand against Gen. and I hope that they might someday be delivered from the relentless inhumanities of this authoritarian rule. Even so, the fact that I am the one who has been cast as their savior, an omnipotent being who would one day return to Riven, overthrow again, and lead them to a new paradise, is deeply unsettling. I would do anything to free my people from this hellish existence, but I am not who they think I am. How, though, can I dissuade them from this notion without also crushing their hopes? As Gen's power grew, so did the mighty, and in order to evade its persecution, for he would wipe them all out in an instant if he could, they had to become more and more adept at concealing themselves. They make use of a network of caves that so far as he has failed to discover. I fear it's only a matter of time before they're found out. Here's the code for the... Okay, they're called Bolu, I guess? Okay. Must have been doodled after the fact, I suppose. Further jeopardizing their existence is the fact that the moiety absolutely refuse to sever their ties of those who have sided with Gen. The two factions thus live together in surprising harmony, their overarching sense of cultural unity appearing to outweigh the schism, at least for now. I heard the day that Father and Enant were inducted into Gen's labor force. I so longed to see them, but a dimness shrouded Eddie's face so abruptly when I asked of them that it left me hesitant to press the matter further. I must know the truth eventually, but I fear the news will not be good. Great. From the moment of their inception, the moiety have sought to disrupt Gen's plans at every turn, sabotaging his construction and stealing from his precious stockpiles and keeping an ever-watchful eye on his every move. They shroud themselves with dark coverings and delight in the fact that their enemies are often frightened by their wraith-like appearance, and their almost preternatural ability to wreak havoc without detection or consequence. It was in the course of one of these forays that I was fortuitously rescued when I first linked back to Riven. I shuddered to think what might have become of me had that scout not been there to intervene. Gen will certainly be hunting for me now, no doubt furious at his guard's failure to detain me. He must be even angrier, though, at the loss of the linking book he surely assumes I brought with me. That I was deceived into linking Riven without a way back is a bitter yet fortunate fact, for it may well have been the death of us all had the path back to Dunny fallen into his destructive hands. Saracen Agonar, you scoundrels. When he finally discovers that I came here empty-handed, he'll be angrier still. That's some consolation, at least. I've glimpsed the final breath of a dying age. A tiny blade cuts the void. The white hole divided, again and again, dipped in black. The nib drips red. The art of genocide. Christ. Today I ventured above ground to see for myself what has become of the island. I hoped it wouldn't be as bad as the moiety had reported. It was worse. Having lived with it for so long, the Rivenese have become inured to the steady decay around them. But I was devastated. As we wound our way through the underbrush, I found myself once again breathing in my youth. The steam air, the ocean air, transporting me back in a matter of seconds. But as my eyes again took hold of the warmth of those... But as my eyes again took hold, the warmth of those memories vanished, and I was left with nothing but numbness. We had reached a bluff that had not been there the last time I visited my home. Riven, which was once one island, is split into 5 distinct pieces that have since drifted apart at an astonishing rate. 4 of these have been claimed by Gen as his exclusive domain. Only those who have sworn their loyalty to him are ever allowed to access to them. From my vantage point at the end of the trees, I could see 3 of them, now blighted with Gen's monomaniacal constructions. These islands are closely guarded, and pose great personal risk to the moiety. Though that hasn't kept them from doing whatever they can to thwart Gen's endeavors there. Okay. The 4th island I could not see, as it has crept away to some distance and now lies concealed by fog. The mighty said that Gan originally governed from this small island, living and working in a protected space he built for himself atop the stump that remains where the great tree used to stand. That's where Catherine is right now, if I recall. The only surviving forest is located here on the largest island, where the village also remains. This island was ostensibly intended to be the province of the people, but it too has been irrevocably marred by Gen's oppressive intrusions. Words fall, brittle brown leaves, masquerading as green. Should never have held, lives both bloomed and as yet unseeded. I feel nothing today. I'm an outcast among outcasts, the diaspora of a dying world. Despite my repeated protestations, the mighty continue to treat me differently, their desperate need precluding any dissuasion from the belief that I am some sort of messiah to come to save them. They misconstrue my every move as validation of their faith, whispering of how I walked the island bold and unafraid, mistaking my outrage at the island's devastation for bravery. But I am afraid, for I know something that the mighty do not. The underlying reason for the island's accelerated decay. Gen wrote this world, and so it will fail, as all of Gen's ages ultimately fail. I must make the mighty understand this, but I cannot talk to Eddie. There were brief moments soon after my arrival when my divine status was forgotten and I was simply Catherine again. But they are almost non-existent now. There is one person, however, who seems immune to these fallacious notions. Neela. Her gaze has never faltered when I've dared hint at the uncomfortable truth. Feel I could trust her to bear the full brunt of it. Gen's making books! How would I not know about this until now? Atris and I know he would likely attempt it, as he has adopted the paranoid practice of writing all the necessary materials into his ages. He's been exploiting the natural resources and the people of Riven as fodder for his mad pursuit to further his colonialist ideals. Thankfully, it sounds he has not yet succeeded about that. As painful as it's been, the fact that I have returned to Riven at this crucial juncture is fortuitous. The age is crumbling and my people are suffering, and if Gen succeeds in securing his freedom, other worlds will suffer the same. The Moiety are looking to me. I may only be mortal, but I have to do something. It's been a long time since my last entry. There is much to tell. It was hard to recognize, but I found the Starfisher. It's located on what Gen refers to as the Temple Island, though the mighty prefer to use the Rivenese word Aleppo, which means water pool. Thus they've taken to referring to the void itself as Aletwan, pool of stars. It's the very fissure that allowed Atris and me to escape this age without leaving a linking book behind us, though it's since been sealed with a skin of heavy iron. Several derelict devices from that time remain mounted to its surface, including a hatch with a windowed viewport, a large telescope, and a mechanical lift that was used to install it, the combination to which was acquired by the mighty long ago. Okay, that's a note for later, I suppose. In the early days, the moiety briefly considered reopening the fissure. Thankfully, they decided against it. Had they attempted it back then, the results might well have been catastrophic. Were they to do so today, it would certainly mean the end of Riven. I'm glad that in the days immediately following Gen's confinement on Riven, he attempted... Oh, no, I'm told in the days since Gen arrived on Riven, he attempted to determine the feasibility of navigating the stars beneath the fissure. He had seen the mist book fall from Atris' hands into that same space. To this end, he sacrificed several poor souls, alleged transgressors of the law, by throwing them into the hatch so he could deserve their fate. It said they did not die, but what became of them remains a mystery. And that original fissure is no longer alone. New ruptures have appeared in recent years at various locations around the island. In some instances, the mighty were able to glimpse the breaches before Gen and his minions moved in to contain them. Their descriptions support my suspicion that the forces that are tearing Riven apart are more than merely geological. More troubling, however, is that Gen is not simply containing these rifts, but somehow using them to travel between the islands. And that he is also reported to devise a way to harness the energies of from the expanse for some sort of as-yet unknown purpose. How like him to wantonly exploit for his own selfish gain that which he does not understand. The starfield beneath the fissure is not as it seems. It's a gentle place, as hospitable to life as a flowing river. That's how Atris described his brief time within the expanse before he linked out, leaving his mist book adrift within it. He was never able to conclude upon its nature, but I cannot help but feel that there must be some greater pneuma behind it. Something I should have mentioned earlier. One of the colossal blades that appeared in the course of our escape from Riven. Oh, that's how they got there. The great dagger that stands at one end of the fissure has been adopted by the moiety as the emblem of their struggle. They have their own explanation as to how it came to be, of course. But their choice is more apt than they know. As that dagger, along with the other blades, was a manifestation of my rage at a desecration that Gen had already wrought upon my world. I haven't told the moiety that I wrote it into this age, as I fear that they would only fuel their overestimation of me. But I can't deny it pleases me to have inadvertently provided them with such a fitting symbol of their cause. Charming. So it's a stone ship scenario. Only Catherine's a bit better at it than Gen was, than Atris was, I suppose. My limited encounters with Gen's followers have been discouraging. Whenever I've attempted to engage them, they've fled from me. I heard an interesting tale from Moiety last night, which may help to explain this. Soon after we trapped Gen on Riven, he claimed that it was he who had been responsible for the Great Blades, summoning them as a preemptively punitive reminder of the obeisance he expected. In the village circles, it is told that this act marked the beginning of a period of restitution, at the end of which, provided they had proven their devotion to him, they would be delivered into a new and better existence. I'll continue my attempts to intervene on their behalf. The cage has finally failed. Gen is free. Oh boy. My sources have confirmed that Gen has managed to create a functional linking book. In fact, he had done so before my arrival, but kept this accomplishment so well hidden that only his closest acolytes were aware of it. In keeping with his callous regard for the worlds he creates, he has simply named his age 233. It's not yet known whether he has written others. I have also just learned that years ago, Moiety Scout managed to steal a book that was an early failure, that Gen had intended to destroy. It was largely complete, but did not work. It wasn't told about until now, because they thought it was useless. Gen struggled for decades, but he could never get a conventional linking book to work. Then one day, he began construction on a cumbersome mechanical solution. A complex array of devices designed to harness the energy of the starry expanse and use them to suppress his book's inherent flaws. The design phase was chaotic, and often dangerous. The mighty tell of tremendous explosions as Gen sought to contain and wield forces that he knew little or nothing about. But he is nothing if not determined, and eventually he was able to use his enormous crutch to link to another age. You can't deny his brilliance, but it's an abominable solution, brutish and overwrought, and all but entirely unnecessary. Outside the partially burned book that the mighty took from him, although he sought retribution for the affront, he appears to have been otherwise untroubled by the theft, no doubt assuming that the book would be useless in the mighty's hands. But I can see what they could not. The book may yet be salvageable. The age the book describes is wholly unsuitable to a home for the mighty, but I think it can be modified. I'll dream. Okay. I've nearly finished writing the mighty's age. The world, as described, is harsher and more desolate than they are used to. They should be able to sustain themselves there. But we'll need a second book. Gen has been spending most of his time on 233 lately, so our danger is less. But getting into his lab will still be difficult. The coming collapse weights the air, blurring my vision both day and night. We must act soon. Success! We have secured a second book, though I worry now that Gen will miss it and deduce our own plans before we're ready. The descriptive book I prepared as a refuge for the rebels is useless unless I can find a way to correct its inherent flaws. Gen's massive machine mainly functions to manipulate the energies within the expanse. It serves its purpose, but its excess seems unwarranted. The Rivenese have long used crystalline substrates as an elegant means to manipulate light. If I could just find the right material. Last night's dreams delivered me a perilous plan. I will write this substance in the new moiety age. The lens thing. If we could temporarily access Gen's apparatus, we could use our book to link to this new age and search for the crystal. Someone would then have to carry the book back to safety once the link was made. If it fell into Gen's hands, all would be lost. When Gen links to 233, one of his acolytes always remains to shut down the device. We'll have to get to him before he can do so, which means we'll only have one chance before they're alerted to our presence. Everything's ready. I have written the material into the new age, and I have prepared the second linking book to a return path to Riven. Of course, it too suffers the same deficiencies as all of Gen's books, so it won't work unless it's augmented. Once I'm in the new age, I'll have to locate the crystal and adapt it to heal the gateway image, which should render the book functional. I can then use the second linking book to return to Riven with more of this material. It's risky, but if it all goes well, the moiety, and any others we can convince to join them, will finally have an escape. I can't help but laugh at the absurdity of these plans. I sound like Atris. Should I fail to return, it will likely mean the end of my life. But my only real fear is for my people. Everyone assures me they have complete faith that I'll accomplish my task and lead them to a better world. That's the fulfillment of the prophecy, after all. But underneath, they are just as tense and fearful as I am. What will become of them if I do not return? Will they perish here on Riven, or attempt to follow me through this new book into an unknown fate? I don't know what to tell them. Against all odds, it's done. We have already evacuated most of our members to this new age, which the moiety have named Tay. The world is more beautiful than I anticipated, so I'm pleased. The Rivenese have been liberated at last. They stand beneath the open sky, unafraid, dazzled by their freedom. They are happy. But there's still much to be done. The age is still vulnerable. The only way to completely protect it from Gen is to destroy the books once everyone is safely in Tay. I'm hesitant to bring this up with the moiety until they've had a chance to acclimate themselves to the new world, as it would mean they would be forever exiled from the only home they've ever known. Nor am I eager to sever my own connection, and my only path back to my life and family unmissed. But for the greater good, it must be done. For the moment, we're safe. But our activities could arouse Gen's suspicions at any moment. We cannot delay. I'll return to Riven tomorrow to resume my attempts to persuade the remaining holdouts to join the others on Tay. For now, though, I must rest. Same here. We'll be back next time.